Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. Now, normally we're coming to you live following a game. We're here to talk about the ups and the downs, the ebbs and the flows, what happened, what didn't happen, what did we see. That's not going on right now. We're kind of stuck back in that little limbo that we went through for, about 8 months after everything shut down last year. Obviously, the Phoenix Suns have had the next 3 games canceled per the COVID regulations and the social distancing and the contact tracing and all those fabulous words that were never part of our vocabulary this time last year. That's what's kind of shut the Suns down. So you know what? We're still going to provide that quality Suns content that you come here for. And I can't do that unless I have my good buddy, Matthew. Matthew, thank you for joining us in a very casual manner. And you're muted. That's fantastic. There you are.
I'm trying to pull it together for this one, man. No, I'm under construction over here. I got the contractors working on stuff, working on the new set, setting that up. So now I'm just chilling over here with the Rock.
Okay, you got the Rock in the corner. Fantastic. This is really fun for the people who are listening to the podcast and not watching it. But you do have Dwayne the Rock Johnson over your shoulder. And like I said, you get by with a little help from your friends. And we're bringing in our friends also from the Bright Side of the Sun podcast network. Welcome to the Suns Jam Session, to Fanning the Flames. We got both Justin and Paul with us. What's up, fellas?
Hey-o.
Men, gentlemen, what is going on?
Hey,
Nothing.
good to see you guys. The band's back together, right? Kind of.
All have amazing hats on.
We do.
Oh, man, it's Valley night here on Thursday night.
My jersey still hasn't shown up.
Still?
No,
Where'd you order it from?
Suns.com.
Oh,
That was your
go to
first
Walmart.
mistake.
Yeah, seriously, you can go down to Just Sports and they got them there waiting. So just go on to suns.com and cancel that. So, but we got plenty to talk about. First and foremost, we'll get the housekeeping notes out of the way. Welcome, as always. If you're listening to this, make sure that you subscribe, rate, and review. If it's on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button. Thank you to everybody who's joining us in the chat. That's fantastic. You can follow me on Twitter at Darth Voida. You can follow Matthew on Twitter. You can follow Paul on Twitter.
At Dervish of Whirl.
You can follow Justin on Twitter.
At So Says Jay.
Very well done. For those who are listening to this podcast in 1.5 speed, that was very slow and articulate for them. You can follow our show at Suns Jam. You can follow their show
At
Fan
the
Flames NBA. Ooh.
Perfect. So there you go, everybody. We appreciate you hanging out. I don't know if I'm the only one who drinks on Thursday night. I think I might
drink
be.
every night.
This is true. This is why I have a belly. Well, pop them if you got them. And you know what, fellas? Even though there's no games to talk about, let's talk Suns. All right, fellas. Well, here we are, 11 games into the season, and we've come kind of to a sudden halt. A halt that might be needed for the Phoenix Suns. It's kind of, with so many games happening in so few nights, I almost feel like this is one of those blessings in disguise. But, I think that it's fun to get together with the entire Bright Side of the Sun podcast network and just kind of do a pulse check, see where we're at, see where we're going, see what we're feeling, and find out why So Says Jay thinks that the new Taylor Swift album is so good. I mean, the fact that she doesn't capitalize any of her song names really drives me crazy. How can you accept that, Justin?
It actually it makes it appear more artistic. I assume that's the only reason to do it. I have no idea, but I will say, as much as I do like Evermore, I don't even know if that's the name of the new album. It is, right? Is. Evermore.
That's correct.
Help me, Voida.
I don't know it. I don't. I stopped listening after Speak Now.
Anyway, the first album she put out in 2020, Folklore, I think was far better, far superior. But I have to say, I appreciate, just generally speaking, her effort to put out 2 albums in a year when we truly need Taylor Swift more than we've ever needed her before, and that was 2020.
You know what?
Although
Fun
so far,
fact.
maybe 2021 will be. She might have to do 3 albums if things keep going this way.
She's
Fun
also
fact.
increased the sales of flannel across the country.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Well, that's a different story on young ladies' fashion. Between flannel and everything that Billie Eilish is doing, like 20-year-old girls just don't care anymore. Facts.
Yeah.
Have
we seen Taylor Swift? Though? Taylor Swift, we haven't seen her around though, right? Is she still like a person? Does she have a body still? Or is she just like,
is she real?
Yeah, she.
That's a real concept that record labels just like throw together in the studio. It's the Milli Vanilli of our generation.
Well, I'm sure that's what everybody came to hear was reviews on the new Taylor Swift Evermore album. But, you know, she did put out 2 albums in 2020, which I think is the total amount of podcasts that the Fanny and the Flames did. So you have matched Taylor Swift album output.
Well, you can also check out our podcast, Fanning the Folklore. That'll be launching next week.
A lot of flannel. Some fire pits. Little s'mores action. Well, let's get to the Suns.
This is too much even for me, guys. Let's talk basketball.
Okay, let's talk basketball. Okay. You know, again, thank you to everybody who's joining us. You know, feel free to follow along in the chat. If you have any questions, you can pop those up. But the first thing I wanted to bring up and kind of go around the table here is, you know, we're 11 games in the season, 7-4, same exact record as we were through 11 games last season. I'll start with Paul here. Paul, how do you feel about this team as compared to last year's 7-4 Phoenix Suns?
I'm feeling really good. I mean, it's which is surprising from the podcast of optimism, but I'm feeling really good because the wins have been against good teams. I mean, some of the losses were kind of, you know, the last 2 against Detroit and Washington were more like, I think, taking the games for granted than they were you know, in prior years where it's like that's the competition, that's like the hard teams, and like so from that standpoint, I'm not too worried about it. You know, I'm going into every game thinking they're going to win, which is abnormal from previous years. Last year it was holy crap, we're 7-4. This year it's like, no, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
it's on pace.
So what do you
what Vegas said?
What are you thinking, Matthew?
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
is Paul right or wrong there?
If you listen to our last 3 podcasts, I basically said this does feel different just because we have Chris Paul, just because we have Monty Williams in place. We have I think a fulfilled roster. I think we have everything we need to continue to win. There's nothing really. The only thing that sucks about our losses is, like Paul just said, you know, they're just letdowns because I feel like they expected to win, which is something they kind of did last year too. But like, what gives them the right to do that? You know what I mean? But we'll just blame it on Ayton. You know, let's just attack him. And what sucks for Ayton too, just really quick, is now there's no basketball, so now we can hate on him even more, dude. So poor guy. But anyways, yeah, I feel very confident in this team. Actually, it's a different aura around the team, but just some bad losses, dude.
And Justin, I mean, you're the guy who says they're the 1 seed at all times. They're not currently in the 1 seed. You've got to be disappointed clearly right now. 7-4 is just not good enough, right?
You know, at the end of the day, all that matters is where they finish at the end of the season, which will be the 1 seed nonetheless. I'm not worried about what we're seeing from this team right now. And, you know, first of all, if we compare it to last season, we don't have a situation like we did last year where Aaron Baines is shooting like 97% from 3-point range. We don't have anybody playing way above their head, at least as far as I see it. I mean, people are playing, if anything, below their expectations, below where we'd expect them to be playing. And at the end of the day, I think it's only going to improve. Players are going to get better. Booker's going to not shoot 60% from the free throw line for the season. Deandre Ayton, we'll get into him, I know, but I don't think he's going to go this whole year taking 9 shots a game. Chris Paul is still figuring out how to mesh with this team. And we have, like Paul said, beaten really good teams. Now, the 2 bad losses we have are both fresh in our minds. And I think that's why people are freaking out right now. If we look at those 2 losses and say they happened 3 weeks apart or even 2 weeks apart, I think everyone would go, hey, you know what? Chalk it up to bad losses. But they happened 2 games apart. And that's why everybody's sitting there freaking out saying, oh my God, let's do this, that, and this. Not sitting there. It's let me use the phrase, they're missing the forest from the trees. Is that how that phrase goes? Is that right?
Yes.
Forest for the trees, yeah.
Let's look at the overall picture here and see a 7-4 team who has beaten a number of teams that were in the playoffs last year. Yeah, they threw up 2 stinkers, really 1.5, because the first half of the Detroit game wasn't terrible. They just went ice cold. And then that Washington game, we'll just blame that on
the whole time.
Look, we have 0 COVID cases still, as far as I hear, on the Suns. Their games are canceled because of contact tracing. As far as I see it, the Suns played 0 defense that game just to make sure that none of them contracted COVID. There was some inside analysis going on there.
Yeah, and Bradley Beal was going on that, like, just that pre-COVID, like, high before, like, it really sets in.
Well, and I think the Suns did a good job of social distancing against the Washington. To your point, Justin, they let them shoot all they want because they didn't want to catch it, and I think that it's something that we really need to take a look at. And again, this is probably the disadvantage of social media and accessibility. We all see and have these knee-jerk reactions, and we live in the world of extremes. If the Suns win, they're the best team ever. If the Suns lose, trade Ayton, trade everybody, something's wrong. Good teams also lose. I don't remember the 62-20 Suns going undefeated. They were 62-20. I don't remember Charles Barkley back in 93, that team going undefeated. Unfortunately, you have some bad nights. It just sucks that the last taste that we have in our mouth is Bradley Beal's nuts all over us, man. It's really frustrating that he's the reason that all this is kind of shut down. And I guess we can go into it. Who's responsible here? Is it the NBA or is it the Wizards, or like, who should we be mad at?
Nobody. I feel like this was going to happen sooner or later. I mean, if the season was actually postponed for like a week or 2 weeks or so, I think that would have been really, really dumb. I think just postponing the games because they only had the first half of schedules released, right? So they can play these games right after that and then continue the next half of the season. So it's smart. I expected this. I'm not mad at anybody, really. I mean, if we didn't play that game against Washington, then I think we'd be like, why are we not playing this game? We'd be pissed at that too. So it was inevitable for this to actually happen. But I'm not too mad, dude. I'm actually kind of relaxed about it. I like the way the NBA's actually they had their ducks in a row in a way. I know Adam Silver is getting a big backlash because of all what's going on, but I don't understand. Like, do you guys blame him for how he's responded to this whole situation? Because I don't think he's done that bad of a job.
I think I look at it just from the standpoint of it looks worse for the NBA compared to even the NFL. One, because the teams are so much smaller, so it's very, very quickly, particularly because they're shutting down for contact tracing more so than just shutting down for negative tests like the NFL. Because the NFL would one person had a test. I mean, you lose the whole freaking offensive line. Yeah. But you only got 15 guys on the roster, and you can easily, it's very easy to lose 7 guys through contact tracing for this. And then plus you have so many games going on and they're happening so frequently. If you have 1, 2, like the Suns are having 3 games canceled in a row, whereas, the NFL, it's like, they didn't cancel a single game, but they only play once a week, and it's really
they're
spread out.
on.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I was a big advocate for expanding rosters. I was kind of surprised they didn't expand the rosters with like official spots, or even like, whether it's you just have like a practice squad or something of like a bunch of like veteran guys that are like available.
That would be cool.
That's to kind of keep rosters available. They kind of practice with the team and whatnot, but they're there in emergency break glass to keep everything moving. I was kind of surprised they didn't do anything like that. I know the salary cap's a crunch, but I mean, if you want to play game, it's the more games you play, the more revenue you have. So having players on the court kind of helps that. We're kind of managing the way we're going. I mean, I don't think when the NBA kind of went this route, they expected the pandemic to skyrocket through and be like 3 times what it was when we were dealing with things during the summer, when it was kind of at its height. So, victim of circumstances a little bit. But at the same time, I mean, people pointed out, I mean, it's like the last 3 teams that went through Washington are all like shutting people down because of contact tracing, and nothing's coming from Washington.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, is everybody staying in like the wrong hotel?
That's tough.
You know, are they like, you know, spraying down those visitors' locker room appropriately? You know, is this like one of those tunnel situations like with the Clippers?
Yeah, the tunnel.
Well, this is where, you know, again, it's hard to point blame, and I don't even know if blame is a necessity here. It is what it is, if you will. But again, yeah, I mean, Iverson Vlogs says it in the chat. The Wizards have to be hiding something. I'm not even joking at this point. 4 teams have tested positive after playing Washington. And you had Jason Tatum, who tested positive for COVID-19. He grew up in St. Louis with Bradley Beal. He was a couple of years behind Bradley Beal. They were dapping it up after the game on Friday night. And then next thing you know, Bradley Beal's out for the Miami game because of the contact tracing. Well, then they allow him to play, and now the whole Suns week is ruined. And again, you know, you can't necessarily blame anybody, but if I was to point blame, I would kind of, you know, point my finger a little bit over at the NBA and just be like, well, like if you're contact traced to somebody who had COVID, like you're down for you're down for 10 days. You're not coming back to work for 10 days. You're making sure you can test negative. There's PTO and things like that. And trust me, these guys don't need the PTO. They're fine there. So it's just interesting how the season's evolved. It's nice knowing that they only released half of the schedule for this exact reason. These games will be made up. They might not hit 72 games, or they haven't announced exactly how the playoffs are going to occur. So it might be a couple shortened rounds just to kind of make sure that they get the whole season in prior to the Olympics. But you know, at this point, I guess we're just kind of is what it is. What are you thinking there, Justin?
All right, let's play through a scenario here.
Ooh,
okay, so we obviously saw how the bubble went, right?
Mm-hmm.
The bubble went off without a hitch. It went perfectly. So are we going to sit here and believe or think that Adam Silver didn't have what he thought would be the best mechanisms in place to avoid games getting canceled this NBA season? I think he did. Now, let me ask you this question. Does he have the absolute power to say this is how we're going to do it? Or does there have to be an agreement between the NBA and the Players Association in terms of how these protocols are going to work? Because we saw what Adam Silver just came down with new protocols saying if you're home, you're at home or you're at team events, and that's it.
And if you're on the road, you're in the hotel.
Exactly. Yep. I said I'll guarantee you. I won't guarantee you because I don't know, but I would say with almost absolute certainty that that's how he would have wanted to do it from the get-go, and that he probably got pushback. And I wouldn't be surprised if internally in discussions between the NBA right now and the NBA PA, there's a little bit of a "I told you so" kind of thing going on with him. So and that's obviously all speculation, but if you think about it logically, that seems to make sense, right?
Agreed.
Adam Silver said you're all staying in a bubble for months. And
at very least
a regional let players go out and do whatever. Yeah. So I don't know if there's there's not blame to go around. Well, we could say there's blame, but this isn't a politics podcast, so that's a whole different scenario, right?
No. Do you know what this podcast is? This is a let's trash Ayton. No, I'm just kidding.
Jeez. That's all the other ones.
that one almost gets me more angry. I don't know why. It just does.
Well,
but
I think
you can't put blame in one place. And I can see from the Players Association perspective, assuming that's how it went, why they wouldn't want to have these super stringent requirements in. But you had to see it coming. I mean, look what's happened with college basketball. So it's happening. Like Matt said, it is what it is, and that's all we can really say right now. And hopefully they do it. I thought you did. Somebody said that.
I hope I did.
That was in my head.
Sometimes I say stuff and I don't remember. John tells me, "Yeah, you said that, dude." Sorry.
What happened? I blacked out.
Well, I will note real quick that the Suns Jam Session guys have their hats on forward, and the Fanning the Flames, because you are the OG Phoenix Suns podcast. You know, by the fans, that's you guys. For the fans, that's us. Because you guys normally, I'm on the other side of normally listening, so that's how I interpret it. You guys are you look too cool with your Valley hats on backwards. But I think it's time, you know, let's switch out of COVID talk. Obviously, the Suns have lost 3 games this week. Again, I think it's a positive. I think it's an opportunity for the team to get a little rest, for Monty to do a little in-season coaching, and maybe get the big boy Deandre Ayton some more love. And you know, there's a little segment that we like to do on this podcast. It's
Watch 2021.
So it's time to get kind of your guys' thoughts on Deandre Ayton. You know, where do you stand on the great Deandre Ayton debate on a scale of let's sign him to the max extension to trade him for Marvin Bagley and Rashawn Holmes? Where do you guys stand?
I'll let Justin go first.
I definitely stand on the let's trade him for Marvin Bagley and Rashawn Holmes side. No. And
and his dad, Marvin Bagley and his dad.
And his dad. I'm not going to say right now I can equivocally commit, or I would want the Suns to commit to saying sign him to a max extension, because we don't know. I mean, it's that's the problem that I have with this whole debate going on Twitter and everywhere else in the world right now, or at least in the Suns universe, is what are we talking about this for? Why? Like, why don't we also speculate who the Suns are going to take with the number 1 draft pick this year? Because that's not going to happen. That's just as relevant. I mean, we don't know what the issue is right now. Because obviously, you know, I'm not stupid enough to sit here and go, Ayton's playing completely fine right now. He's not. But is that a reason of circumstance? Is that because he's still getting used to being a guy who is now the main guy in a pick and roll, where he oftentimes, you know, would drift out, float out before last season, or just dive hard to the basket? Is it because just mentally he's sitting there going, okay, well, now I've got Devin Booker and Chris Paul on my team, and almost like with Chris Paul coming in, almost like a little bit of awestruck, almost like, it sounds crazy to say, but think about it. Ayton's what, 22, 23? So he grew up watching Chris Paul play. Is it just a matter of him getting used to the different roles that other people are taking on this team? Because we're seeing, like I said earlier, he's taking 9 shots a game right now. We've got Mikal Bridges being more assertive on offense. We've seen Cam Johnson have a couple of good games, and it's going to take time for people to really fall in place and kind of get comfortable with that. So if this continues, then you know, if we're here 3 months from now and Ayton's still averaging, you know, 12 points, 10 rebounds, and taking 9 shots a game, that's odd. And maybe I start leaning towards the not trade him, but maybe he's not a max guy. And ultimately he might not be at the end of the day. But for where everything is right now, I think it's just a waste of energy to really engage in that conversation. And really, it's more of what we should do is chill and let things play out and see where things go. And that's why this break 3-game postponement for the Suns is just coming at the god-awful worst time, because outside of having that Washington loss, that taste in our mouths, I was really looking forward to seeing how Ayton would come back after that game. Because, you know, Chris Paul, you know, Booker, you know, Monty probably got on him after that game. Think about it. I forgot what game it was earlier this year, but he had a game that he got a lot of flack for, and he came back the next game, I think, and put up 24 and 13 or something like that, and looked more assertive, more aggressive on the offensive end. At the end of the day, maybe he's just a kid that needs a kick in the ass a little bit more often than other people at that particular stage of their career, until it becomes something that becomes more innate in him. And again, until we see this develop more, there's really no way to say one way or the other, yeah, we should trim. Let's think about this. If the Suns traded Ayton right now, wouldn't that just be absolutely fucking insane? Yes. Mm-hmm. It would. So why are people even... I'm done.
Paul, what do you think?
Well, Justin said it a little bit at the beginning there. So Chris Paul's numbers are down. Devin Booker's numbers are down. Both of those guys, nobody's like, what the fuck? I mean, they're like, what the fuck? but they're expecting it to kind of turn around. So they're like, once these guys get their shit together, you know, look out. But Ayton's numbers are down too, and it's like, oh, the world's ending. Oh no, gotta get rid of him. He's a piece of shit player. Blah blah blah. I'm like, there's an adjustment period, and clearly there are other guys who are not playing above their heads, but really coming in their own. I mean, look at Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, you know, Cam Payne. All these guys are, you know, they're kind of, not that they're picking up the slack, but they're asserting themselves, and that's really changed dynamics from last year. Last year, it was, you know, it was Book. Book was 1, Ayton was 2, Kelly was 3. Mikal was, you know, if we're bailing out for a 3-point shot, same thing with Cam at that point. And, you know, Rubio was just getting everybody going. You know, that was our rotation. This year it's like, oh no, Mikhail's kicking everybody's ass. Cam's kicking everybody's ass. Cam 2's kicking everybody's ass. That's why we're winning. If the bench is playing like last year's bench, we'd be in shit, and it wouldn't just be Ayton who was looking bad. Book would be looking bad. CP3 would be looking bad, but they're being given the benefit of the doubt. Granted, they have a history. I get that. But at the same time, we're giving them an adjustment period. Why aren't we giving this guy an adjustment period? And that's kind of where I sit with it. It's like, he's still playing great defense. He's still getting a ton of rebounds. He is the anchor of our defense. And he's even said, that's where I'm focusing. The shots will come when that comes. But right now, we've got shooters, we've got scorers. My job's to, do on that lock down on the defense. And you even saw it in the Indiana game. When Sabonis went off, and Dave brought this up on your last pod, when Sabonis went off was when Ayton wasn't guarding him. He can do his job, and that's where he's focusing right now.
Can I interject one additional thought too? I actually looked at this today because it came to mind, and I was kind of curious. The Suns right now are 7th in the league in 3-point shot ratio, if you will. So it's something like 44.1% of their shots are 3-pointers. Last year, that sat at 36.1, and they were in the bottom 10 in the league. So I think that certainly plays into the lack of shots for Ayton, and very well could play into some of the lack of offense from him, because an 8% jump in 3-point shots is pretty significant, if you ask me.
Absolutely. And think about what that does to rebounding numbers. Okay. That's what you need from DA. If the team is expected to shoot more, as that they're finding their way in their offense right now. Chris Paul hasn't meshed well necessarily with Ayton yet on the pick and roll. We all know that. We've seen Ayton bumble it a little bit. And I think, that's a very good point. He's playing in awe of Chris Paul. He's learning how to play with him. And while they're trying to figure that out, at the same time, defenses are collapsing. They're having the ability to pass it to the perimeter. And if somebody closes out on that guy, they're passing it around and they're hitting wide open shots. And now DA's killing it on the boards. But apparently rebounds aren't good enough. And offensive rebounds aren't good enough. And playing good defense isn't good enough. I'm frustrated with it because, to Justin's point, why are we having this conversation after every game? Mikal Bridges, 2 games ago, had scored 6 points. Maybe it's 3 games. I think it was 3 games ago, because 2 games ago was his 34-point performance. 3 games ago, he scored 6 points. And you know why? Because he's playing defense the whole time. But we love Mikal. Mikal was a number 10 pick, so therefore he is infallible. But when DA goes out there and throws up a lackluster performance, an 8-5 performance in which the whole team didn't play well as a whole, and he's falls in line with everybody, it's trade him, it's burn down everything. I get it. I can understand why people are frustrated. We have an expectation for this kid. He's a first-round overall pick 2 years ago. But remember, 120 total games he's played due to COVID, due to suspension. He's still learning how to play this game, and he's showing you that he has the ability to do it. Every time he hits one of those, jumpers, everyone's like, oh, no, that's not – dude, 2 points is 2 points. Now, do I want him dunking it down low and creating opportunities for and ones? Of course, I think we all do. But at the same time,
he's a finesse offensive guy. He's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, not Shaq. Not to say that he's the greatest center of all time, but when you're talking about style, yeah.
Matthew, what are you saying? What are you thinking? You're very quiet up there in your new studio.
That's our fault.
Waiting my turn. So the interview he gave, I can't go back to this enough, where he was interviewed and asked about the offense, and he's just talking about how they already have 3-point shooters. They have a lot of guys that can score. He's not focusing on scoring, and he's focusing on defense. He's the anchor of the defense. Everyone loved that. Everyone lost their mind. Like, oh, that was so great to hear. Because DA's interviews, they're always kind of crazy and weird. He has different responses that you never hear from NBA players, but everyone loved that. And if he puts up 6 or 8 points, we have to get used to that. And I like it how he's focusing maybe on one thing early this year, is defense. And then maybe he can add something else to the game, because that's what you do as an NBA player. You can't just all of a sudden everything comes together, especially if you're playing with a new point guard. It's going to take some time. But if he can focus on defense where he's mostly by himself and he can be the anchor, like he says, I would take that over him scoring 24 points a game and not doing crap on defense. Because I feel like this defense and this way the team plays right now, especially the way they slow things down, that is really crucial, I think, in the playoffs. And I love it. I think that I have no idea. You guys have to help me. I mean, you already did. You guys, we all agree. This is just insane how everyone's just attacking him. Like, I was like, what did he do? Did he send out a dick pic or something? What happened? Like, what did this guy do? I mean, they lost the game. Yeah, you can blame stuff on every player on this team, especially like Jay Crowder. He's kind of lost his shot a little bit. He's throwing up like wild, nasty threes we were warned about. There's just things we can nitpick, but to blame it all on Ayton, I think it's crazy.
And hopefully, again, as I think Justin said it, this break is coming at an inopportune time because everybody's overanalyzing. And at the end of the day, if Ayton's playing the way he is and we're 2-9, yeah, we got problems. Okay. We're 7-4. We're winning despite these horrible performances by Deandre Ayton. We're winning. We're a team. Now, again, the team concept might not necessarily equate to a max contract for Deandre Ayton because, truth be told, when he becomes eligible for that max at the end of this year, he's probably not going to do anything this year that's going to necessitate a max. It might be let's wait one more season and see. And even then, you might not want to invest another max contract on your team for your center. He might end up being one of those, $17 million a year guys, and hopefully he performs well and he sticks around long enough because he likes to be a part of this culture in this team. But I think that the Ayton debate, it will always rage. It is the great paradox of the Suns fan base right now. And no matter what the guy does, he can't win. So I guess we'll just move on to more positive things. Let's go more.
Rudy Gobert got $200 million.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I don't think that was a smart move for them.
Right. Well, but I'm just saying, like, if Ayton becomes Rudy Gobert, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. We've got the better version of Donovan Mitchell.
This is true.
If we can have the better version of Rudy Gobert too, sure.
Yeah. We'll just be called the Jazz.
And we have alcohol with higher content. Beer without higher alcohol content.
They'll be flooding south from Utah. So let's talk about something that's a little bit more positive. And Matthew, I'll start with you because we ended with you last time. Which member of the Phoenix Suns has impressed you the most so far this season?
I think it's just Mikal Bridges. It has to be, just for the reason that I didn't expect him to be this great offensively and scoring. I mean, he still has his games where he won't cut to the basket. He'll just stand out there by the 3-point line once in a while. But I think he's learned his lesson to take the guy off the dribble, stuff like that, because he's just so long. But he's every game, even if he does score 6 points one game, he learns from it and he continues to build off of it. Like, I don't get down about him like we do. I don't get down about Ayton, but like everyone else does about Ayton. I just think that he really builds off of his previous games and he knows how to correct things and he knows what he has in his arsenal. And he's improved so much to where he's definitely, was that the question, what's my favorite player? What was the question?
It's on the screen.
Oh no, I'm looking at you, baby.
Oh, who's impressed you most?
It's Mikal Bridges.
Mikal Bridges. All right. What about you, Paul?
I mean, not that I don't love me some Mikal, but in this case, I'll probably go Cam Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, similarly, I mean, he kind of came in, was a shooter, kind of like what we kind of thought Booker was going to be when he showed up. And that's kind of what he was expected to be, is this, tall, lanky guy who'd shoot, wouldn't give you much else. But I mean, he's playing pretty solid defense. He's, shown a propensity to be able to put it on the floor, and like he's got a couple, like, I mean, not like they're like super highlight dunks, but for Cam Johnson, they're highlight dunks.
Yeah.
He's learned how to cut, play off the ball, dribble a little bit. I mean, he shook a dude and then did a step back three. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
awesome.
did we know that was in his arsenal ever? I mean, we're watching this with guys who, like, okay, Mikal Bridges is going to be a 3-and-D guy. Cam Johnson is going to be a 3 and we're not sure what else guy. But now they're more than that. You're not seeing that on a lot of other teams. A lot of other teams are like taking these guys and, really just plugging them into a hole, which is great. And, that works. Danny Green's Danny Green. But, if we've got a much more dynamic offense that flows and is working, which it seems to be doing, and, guys who can actually pick up the slack when our stars are off, that's great. Plus his hair's just getting bigger and bigger. I mean, it's not
he's looking beautiful.
Great.
Perfect hair.
What do you think, Justin? What do you think of Cam Johnson's hair?
It's beautiful. It's phenomenal. I think we might be the only team in NBA history to have two guys on their roster at some point in time who went with the Sideshow Bob type hairdo. Him and the old Lopez boy there, right?
Yeah.
But
bring him back. Can't put the same
let's
team.
trade Ayton for him, right?
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that now because he kind of had his way a little bit the other night. But anyway, the obvious answer is one of those two guys. I think they've both been equally impressive. I've loved what Cam Johnson's done in terms of not just being a shooter, putting the ball on the floor more. I mean, he's putting the ball on the floor a lot, almost to a fault. Sometimes, but I love seeing it because ultimately we know he can shoot and other NBA teams know he can shoot. If he's not going to show the threat of putting the ball on the floor, then he's going to get crowded at the 3-point line. It's going to make those shots that much more difficult. So I think him developing that aspect of his game, which we saw some of in the bubble, is really important. If I had to go off the reservation, if you will, and say somebody else, it's hard to say anybody else, but I'll say Langston Galloway has been quite the little surprise. Now, his minutes haven't been all that
yanked around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking. He's played 14, 12, 12, 5, 4, and 7 in the 6 games that he's actually appeared in. Oh, excuse me. I read 1 month. 6, 12, 14, 10, 9. But the dude is instant offense off the bench. And I can't believe that he floated around as a free agent that long, because he was the last guy the Suns signed, right? Oh, besides Etuan Moore, right?
Those guys are about the same time, I think.
Yeah.
So to think that a guy that is that good of a shooter and can come in cold and light a spark like that was around that long, and James Jones snatched him up is not only a credit to Langston, but also to James Jones for seeing that. So I would say if I'm not going to go with one of the two obvious answers, I would say Langston Galloway has certainly been a pleasant surprise, because somebody coming in that late in free agency, you don't expect to get much out of him. And I think even though it's been limited, we've gotten a lot more out of him than we had certainly expected.
Yeah, I think what's nice about this team right now is you have so many different guys that you've been impressed with to begin the season. And, that's one of the reasons we're 7-4. I mean, you can make an easy case for Mikal and Cam Johnson. Langston Galloway, absolutely. In fact, I think we lost the game because when we went back to Detroit and he came in the first 12 minutes, he had like 17 points, and Monty only played him like 2 more minutes after that. I mean, that he was throwing away a guy who was motivated to come out and shoot lights out, and he just didn't take advantage of that. I'm going to go with somebody else. I'm going to agree with Rossjers17 in the chat, and that's a campaign. Hashtag Cam MVP Payne, Cam Fee Payne, MV Payne, whatever. One of the big questions coming in when you looked at this roster prior to the start of this season, it was, okay, well, who's going to be the true backup point guard? Javon Carter's not necessarily a playmaker. We don't really know what we have from Campaign. We know that we had a great appearance in the bubble, but there's no way he's going to shoot 50% from 3 like he did those 8 games down in Orlando. So who's going to be our true playmaker? We were thinking maybe it'll be at some point Saric, definitely Point Book. And Campaign has really come in and solidified that backup 1 role to where Javon Carter's essentially become a 2 backup with Langston Galloway. We haven't seen Etuan Moore really, but I think that the minutes that Campaign puts in, the way that he's the only guy on the team who consistently is aggressive to the basket and tries to put the defense in precarious situations and can throw that ball off at really different angles and make those shots. I'm really impressed with what he's provided so far this season. What do you guys think of Campaign?
No, it's awesome to have 4 nominees, really, and they're just beautiful.
We didn't even mention Sarge.
Yeah, exactly. Every player on this team, it's a good problem to have. Like, you just can't decide which player is your favorite right now. And did we even mention, besides Mikal Bridges, everyone else is on the bench. So, because the starters can't figure it out right now, basically, that's why we can't choose them. So once they do, of course, we'll change our answers. Probably the next pod we do.
Well, so conversely, who's disappointed you the most? Who's not named Deandre Ayton?
Dude, I don't know. This is tough. I think, honestly, I have to think. I think that it has to be between no one really too much. It would have to just be maybe Booker in a way, But just because in the beginning he was turning the ball over so much, I think just trying to find his way in the offense. And then he just has these games against Washington too. He comes out and it looks like he just wants to go one-on-one with Bradley Beal to start the game. And it kind of throws off the rest of the game for him, I feel like. So just for his like mental toughness, I don't know. There's something weird going on with him still this season to where I think everyone, even on Twitter, will notice during the game, like, is something wrong with Booker? Even if he's scoring 20 points, 22 points,
Kardashian.
there's something off. Yeah, the Kendall Jenner thing. And everyone brings that up, but he just doesn't have the same game right now that he has. I liked it when he was like 22 points, 7 or 8 assists, a couple rebounds, whatever, in the win. You know what I mean? I want that kind of book, but he's kind of off right now a little bit, I think. So a little bit disappointed, but it's hard to say, dude, because I love every player on this team right now.
Well, you go to the top of the roster, and I can definitely understand that. I'm actually going to go to the very bottom of the roster, and that's Jalen Smith. I mean, the poor kid hasn't had a chance to play. He's had the ankle issue, and now he's been out to health and safety protocols.
He's got COVID, dude.
Yeah, but like, I'm not disappointed that he got COVID or he's had the ankle. I'm just disappointed because I was really looking forward to seeing him play. The fact that he's got the goggles, I like his buildup. I like the fact that he has the ability to shoot. I really just wanted to see what we have. And I know that, obviously it's 11 games into the season and we'll have plenty of time to see Sticks, but I just loved watching Sticks. And we haven't had a chance to really do that through no fault of his own, really. So that's who I'm disappointed with. Quick and easy. What do you got, Paul?
Honestly, I was kind of going to the bottom of the roster too a little bit. And I was kind of looking at Etuan Moore. I mean, I know we've barely seen him, but I was, just from that standpoint, I was thinking we'd get he'd be more in the rotation, or at least be fighting for a rotation spot. And we saw him a little bit in preseason, and it wasn't great. I mean, maybe that was because we were kind of putting him out of position because Campaign was out, so he was they were trying to put him as like the backup point guard, and that really wasn't his spot, so it was kind of throwing him off. But he didn't get a spot in the rotation, which, I mean, somebody's got to miss out. And I just kind of thought there'd be more of a him, Langston Galloway, maybe like back and forth to see who kind of fits and meshes over time. But it was, that was nipped in the bud real quick.
What are you thinking, Justin?
How about just the starters as a whole?
I mean,
look, I just pulled up on Basketball Reference the team's 5-man combos, and obviously the starters are going to have the most minutes there, but they're a net minus 6.4 per 100 possessions. That's something you can't have out of a starting lineup that has a first ballot Hall of Famer, some will say budding, I will say bona fide superstar in Devin Booker, a number 1 draft pick in Deandre Ayton, a seasoned veteran with playoff experience in Jay Crowder, and well, I'm not gonna fault McHale for anything because he's the one guy out of that I think hasn't really contributed in any sort of way to the negative aspect of that starting 5. But Monty said it, last game after the last game. I think Book and Chris Paul might have said it too, just that the starters aren't doing what they need to do. I mean, we shouldn't look at box scores, and I know plus minus is what it is. It's not all that important of a stat, but how many games have there been where our starters are either hovering around 0 or maybe a little bit in the negative or a little bit in the positive, and then we've got a number of bench guys that are plus 10, plus 15. It keeps happening, and that's something that for the long-term success of this team, we can't have. And that kind of goes back to a couple of things we've talked about, one being they're still figuring things out. I mean, you can't sit here and think that we're seeing the best out of that 5 that we're going to see this season. If you do, you're a fool. I'm sorry, you're a fool. And it goes to the depth that this team has. And I said this on Fanning the Flames, one of our 2 episodes since the season started, I think. Maybe the last one where
we had planned on recording tonight until we were invited on to the illustrious jam session, and you can't turn down that opportunity.
Just use this, cut us out. Just use this audio.
We don't kill you with quality. We kill you with quantity.
Maybe it was the last episode.
We don't kill you with either.
I'm just gonna drop the names of people we have on to make us sound more important that way, since we don't put out that much. Oh, wait, what?
Giggity.
Anyway,
that's what she said.
But the depth of the team, we mentioned it earlier this episode. You're gonna have games each game, it seems like somebody else from that bench is stepping up and providing the team what the team needs to get over the hump, at least 7 out of those 11 games so far. And that's something that's going to be critical, particularly this season when we're dealing with the COVID crisis. We're dealing with a pandemic, and we know that there are going to be games like we've seen with Jalen Smith where players are in health and safety protocol, and you're going to need somebody to step up and fill in minutes. We know that we have a capable bunch of dudes sitting there waiting to come into the game, which is also a reason why even when the starters aren't playing well, like they're not right now, we can't sit there. Nobody sits there and goes, well, this sucks. This game's lost, because you're going to have maybe a campaign, a Cam Johnson, a Langston Galloway hopping on board and saying, don't worry, I got this for us right now. I'm going to keep us in this game.
No, I agree. And that kind of takes me into my next question. Where can this team improve? Sounds like what you're thinking, Justin, is that starting 5, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, they're not going to keep playing this poorly as a group for the season. If they do, then there's something wrong. There's just too much talent there for it to continue. And if we think about it in the scope of like a normal season, we're 11 games in, we had effectively 0 training camp. I would say right now where they would be if this was a normal year would be like maybe just cracking into the regular season in terms of time playing together. And
even the preseason, the starters barely played together. I mean, Crawford didn't play till the 3rd game, and I think Paul only played in the 1st game, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think it was the 2nd. They
barely played. So I mean, all of that chemistry is having to be figured out in the regular season, and we're winning while we're doing it. I mean,
it's a good thing.
That's why Paul and I you can tell Paul and I have known each other for 20 years. So he just jumps in and finishes my thought for me, even though my thought was literally half complete, but that was pretty much what I was going to say.
It's so romantic.
Well, if I don't jump in, you're never going to let me talk.
That's how Matthew feels sometimes, don't you, Matthew?
No, not at all, dude. I taught you well, right? How to listen.
Nobody puts Matthew in a corner. They just put him next to a couch.
Yeah.
What do you think,
Hope your
Matthew?
floor's comfortable.
I think it's really terrible right here. I think that, they need to improve on interior defense when Ayton's not on the court, backup center, rebounding when he's not on the court. So someone to back up Deandre Ayton, that's what I'm going to go with. Really that, including the starters too, just gelling. What I'm really seeing too is maybe it's not, but maybe the bench, when they come on the court, you can tell they really want to show the starters they're for real. They want to stay here. They want to be part of this team going forward into the playoffs. But then the starters, I don't know if they're trying to ball out and impress each other or something, or they're just having a hard time gelling in the way to where their games just don't mesh well. But it's very odd that they're not improving on the offensive end yet, except for a few games. But the offense itself, of course, with the first team, but yeah, and just somebody to back up Ayton. Because when Ayton's not on the floor, and Saric, bless his little heart, he tries he's a good player, but him playing backup center for Ayton, I don't like it. We just need someone to come in like a Harkenstein from the Denver Nuggets, someone like that. Just someone that's going to come in and he's like the star on the court. So that's where they need to improve, man.
And I'll go a different route. I just think as a whole, we need to attack the rim more. I feel like it's too much jump shooting, and I get it. And it's nice to see, actually, that we've somehow become the team, the franchise that birthed the modern NBA, the 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns, haven't really adopted that philosophy since Steve Nash left. So now we've become a team full of sharpshooters who live by the 3 and die by the 3. And I like that, because you never really feel like you're down in the game. It's like, for those of you who are Cardinals fans out there, the Cardinals, when they didn't have Kyler Murray and they had Josh Rosen, if you got down 10 points, you knew it was over, because every play, if Josh Rosen was getting rushed, he was getting pummeled. He had cement for feet. With Kyler Murray, you're always in it. You can always score. It's the same thing with the Suns and that 3 ball right now. We saw it against the Clippers. But I still would like to see what that team did against the Clippers in the third quarter. They started to attack the basket. They started to slow the game down with free throws, and they started climbing back into it. If you have that offensive philosophy to attack the rim and put the opposition in foul trouble, now you're getting free points when the clock isn't running, and this is already the slowest paced team in the league. That's how you develop a big lead, and that's how you ultimately can win the game. And I just think that Devin Booker is settling too much for kind of the way that he plays, which isn't really bad. He's not getting the calls, in all honesty. CP3 is not attacking the basket because he's old and he doesn't want to get pushed around. Deandre Ayton doesn't attack the basket at all. And so Cameron Payne's and Cam Johnson, he's finally attacking, but he's not getting any foul calls. So I just think that that's one way I feel that they can improve, is really try to make a concerted effort to try to get to that line and put the opposition's big guys in foul trouble early, and then potentially by the third, fourth quarter, DA could feast.
I'm pretty sure our slowest pace in the league is actually faster than that 7 seconds or less Suns team.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. No,
So can't do too much there.
I got a couple more questions before we get out of here tonight. Let's see, which one should I go? I was going to ask a trade question, but I feel like it's too early in the season. Nobody's the correct answer.
Let's
Hold on. I just want to hear what that question was.
Was it
question
is trade, or who should we trade?
Is there anyone in the league that the Suns could trade for to meet the need that you feel this team has?
Okay. I just want to hear it. I don't want to answer it.
Yeah. Think about it. It'll be something we'll do next time. You got to understand, the only time we all get together, it appears, is when there is no basketball. We all got together when we were in the middle of the pandemic and we were doing the live stream podcast. And they weren't even podcasts at that point. They were just live streams or Zoom calls with all the Suns fans. And then we did another one once they released, what was it, the schedule? Or it was the bubble.
Beautiful disaster.
Yeah.
Those were beautiful disasters.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the first one.
Yeah, for sure. Where we learned the things about Zoom that we didn't know.
We learned about the recipes. Yeah.
Yes. We learned a lot that night.
Don't post the link on a public forum.
Never.
No.
Ever. So I'll ask this question, and I guess I'll start
screen sharing.
Yeah, you have to. We learned so much that night, and it was really fun because who called it? Was it Matthew? Was it you who said, like, it's gonna be 10 minutes until the dicks get in here? Dave had no idea what you were talking about, and then the dicks showed up.
Yeah.
But anyways, if you were, let's see, if you had to choose one member of the Suns to run into at your local Circle K, who would it be? And I asked that question because Justin ran into Charles Barkley once at his local Circle K.
What a nice guy he was, too. Like, the nicest guy. Did I tell? I don't know if I told this story before.
Tell it. That's why I asked the question. Once upon a time.
Once upon a time. This was like 2 weeks before he did that match with Phil and Peyton and Steph Curry, right?
Yep.
So I just finished golfing, and I pull into the parking lot of Circle K, and there's this dude taking practice swings, like literally in the middle of the parking lot, like between the Circle K and where the gas pumps are, standing in the middle of the parking lot. I was kind of far away. I immediately think, I like this guy's style. I didn't realize who it was at the time. So I go inside. The guy goes inside. I go inside, and I'm standing in line to pay, and I hear this, man, you ain't got no Diet Coke? And I was like, is that Bart? And I look over, and I'm like, that's Barkley. He's wearing an Auburn basketball jersey. So he gets in line in front of me. In fact, I texted Paul and Dan, and I was like, I'm at Circle K and Barkley's here right now. Dan immediately texts back, pick or didn't have it. So I'm like, all right. So I'm walking out. He's standing in line and go, hey, man, I hate to do this, but could I get a picture with you? And he goes, oh, for sure, man. He's wearing his mask. He pulls his mask down. I'm like, you can leave your mask on if you want. He looks at me and goes, man, if I leave my mask on, no one's going to know who the fuck I am. I'm like, you're like a 6'7" dude wearing a bright orange Auburn basketball shirt with a bald head. Like, people, you're in Arizona, bro. People are going to know who you are. Took a picture with me. I asked him if he was ready for his match, and he's like, "Oh, I'm ready. I'm getting there. We're gonna do it." And I was like, "All right." Walked out. Couldn't have been more gracious about some random dude who might have had a couple in him after finishing a round of golf, asking him to take a picture in a Circle K. So that's my.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, great guy.
Can't top that one, right?
I'm not going to try. What's the point? That's sort of, and then he won the thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Talk is that amazing interaction. So There you go. So
I gave
if
him the confidence he needed.
it's what it was. You saw him taking the swings, and you're like, I like what you're doing with your lead arm there, and that was it. That was it. So if you had to choose a member of the current Suns to run into a Circle K, who would it be? Who do you feel is the coolest guy?
I'm going to say Book, and I'm going to go with golf.
Because you want to meet Jenner.
Yeah, I mean, if you I'll be like, hey, Book, can you take a picture of us really quick? That'd be great. Thanks, man. But he posted on Twitter like a few months back, my golf ball won't go where I want it to go. I need help. And of course there's like all these responses. Bloom responded, he's like, dude, anytime you want to go out, I'm like, hey, come out to Gainey. I'll bring you, bro. Let's do this. So I would want to meet Book just so I can twist his arm and get him to come play golf with me.
All right. I flew back from, I forget where, maybe LA or something. And I was waiting out front of Sky Harbor Airport for my wife to pick me up. And I was standing there, and all of a sudden a Lamborghini pulls up, popped right in front of me, pops open. It's Devin Booker. Do you know what I said to him? God bless you, D-Book. I sounded like my fucking father, like, God bless you. Lord praise for you. And he looked at me, and he was picking up some chick. So I don't know if he beat anybody at the time. I didn't want to say much because it probably would have got him in trouble. But he just looked at me. He gave me a smile and kind of a wave. He's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm a heathen, but whatever. I think I'd probably want to just see Mikal. If I saw Mikal at Circle K, I think it'd be cool because it sounds like everybody who talks to this guy just absolutely loves him. He seems like a low-key, really funny guy. So if I ran into Circle K, I feel like he's the guy who, if I run into at Circle K, I had that Justin interaction that you had with Charles Barkley, he would have something similar to that. I don't know if D-Book would do that. Because Big Dick Book, he might turn around and knock over some lays. So I don't know. Matthew, who would you like to meet at Circle K?
Oh, it's easy, man. The guy that can buy me cigarettes, it'd be Dario Saric. I feel like I've run into him, get some cigarettes, go behind the Circle K, smoke those, and then I feel like he would.
Why do you need to go behind the Circle K?
Because that's what you do.
Saric would do that. He'd be like, hey,
yeah. Paul, don't ask stupid questions.
It's legal in Arizona now, Matthew.
It's my fantasy, man.
Yeah,
I think none of you guys
you look 14.
Yeah, I still get carded. So yeah, he can buy me some cigarettes, and he kind of looks like me with his facial hair and all that stuff. So we can go out to bars and be twin brothers and stuff. I don't know.
That was frighteningly detailed.
Yes, hasn't happened yet. All right, what about you, Paul?
Oh man, I mean, I think I kind of want to run into Javon Carter.
Ooh, nice. You can look him eye in the eye.
No, I want to see what shoes he wears in public. Like, does he do the split shoe thing like when he's off the court?
That's a good. I never thought about that.
I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Circle K's in my life because my dad used to work for them for corporate. So I got to go to all these Circle K grand openings and stuff. I mean, that's actually how I got into the Suns because they had a box. So I got to go to all these games for free with free food and shit. So thank you, Circle K.
Become an advertiser. Fan. So you get your Polar Pop and talk to Javon Carter.
No, I mean straight up, dude. My dad worked for 7-Eleven for Circle King. He was the Slurpee King. Literally, we have cups, glasses that say Gerard Bichelia, Slurpee King. So I have a good affinity for the convenience store.
See, this is what happens when you get us all together.
Hey, and speaking really quick, because Paul just mentioned going to games. I went to the arena today.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So one of the guys in my office next door in my executive suite, he went for one of those he called to get the whole hey, we're gonna sell you season tickets, blah 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 thing, and he knows I'm a Suns guy. He's like, hey, you want to go with? And I'm like, I get to go do this, and I don't have to be the one getting pressured to spend thousands of dollars. That sounds fantastic, dude. They did a freaking amazing job on that place. It looks phenomenal, and I'm sure you've seen it on TV. They've got everything tarped and covered. All the seats are black now. It looks so sleek. They put in all these new bars. They turned the practice facility, the old practice area, into the high end for the first 2 rows, private bar and restaurant. And it's gorgeous, man. They did such a great job. They opened up a lot of the concourse by moving some of the, basically the countertops back. They moved that big escalator over, they moved the whole escalator over. It's just,
oh wow.
And I know it sounds like very little kind of big deal, but it's just so open. It's phenomenal. And I can't wait to go there and actually go to games. And I did find out too, a little tidbit. I don't know if this is out there anywhere, but Flex on their Coast to Coast pod, I think, said that there were some rumors floating around about January 22nd. Apparently, the state said no to the Suns about letting fans back, which is weird though if you think about it, because
the Coyotes are back and they have people there.
They let fans at the Cardinals games, so why not the Suns?
Yeah.
And Coyotes. I have a buddy who's at the Coyotes game tonight, and I'm like, really? It's everybody hates.
If you shop at Fry's, in your crowd with a bunch of big ugly people all the time. Why can't you just go to the Suns game? Oh wait, that's Walmart. Sorry. Why can't you just go to the Suns game?
And they also they reduced the capacity by 1,000 seats because they put in seats all over that are a little more spacious. That's sorry, my dog.
Your dog is an eagle. What the hell's going on over
there? She owns this house. She gets relaxed wherever she wants, man. Wherever she wants. But yeah, they lowered the capacity by 1,000 because they took out some seats and put in those bars, and then they also put in I guess more. They gave each seat more space. So for all of those people who think Robert Sarver just wants money, he just took out 1,000 seats. So
well, that individual ticket price shifted a little bit.
That's why your buddy was down there doing the preview. They need somebody to buy. I went to go buy season tickets a couple years ago, and man, my guy had the worst breath ever. I'm sitting there trying to sell the misses on, and I'm like, you know what? It's a good investment. And she's like, but his breath. I'm like, okay, point taken. I hope he's watching.
I'll say too that the packages I thought it would be a lot more shocking in terms of price. There's affordable stuff there.
If we split it 4 ways, guys, we can sit next to Dave King.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Or we just talk to him about getting us press passes.
This is true.
For free.
This is true.
Yeah.
We've got to do a better job.
We may actually have to be more regular with our recording, Justin, but a press pass would be the worst.
I think the players would love me.
All right. Final question before we get out of here, guys. Have you watched Cobra Kai? And if not, who are you? And where do you get off?
Which one do you want me to answer first?
Anybody.
I've watched one episode. I loved it. I just haven't gotten back around to it yet.
Okay. I'll allow that answer. Justin?
I've watched most of the first season. Pretty much the same thing as Paul. I've got other shows I watch. I just finished watching this show called Greenhouse Academy with my kids. It's horrible, but it's crazy addicting. I convinced my wife to let our kids stay up late the other night so I could watch it with them. It was the weirdest thing ever. I'm also the coolest dad ever, so just for the record. But now I feel like I have to watch Cobra Kai after this, so I can talk Cobra Kai with people like you guys and not be a weirdo.
Well, watch Matthew.
I was a little too deep into the Mandalorian.
Have you seen the Mandalorian?
Me?
Yeah,
of course. I was the one who told you about the.
Oh yes,
that's
right. Yes, the ending. Oh my God. Oh, the ending. Yeah. I got my. I'm Darth Vader. I love anything. Yeah. Star Wars, so.
I'm looking forward to WandaVision starts tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that almost makes you want to buy.
I have no idea. I don't understand what's going to happen in that show at all. But I'm looking forward to finding out what it is.
She's trying to create a perfect.
Oh no, I know. Trust me, I'm a massive Marvel fan. I know it's insane. But what the actual plot of that show is, I don't understand because they have not told us shit. They just have, she's Michelle from Full House, which is hilarious because she's their sister. Oh, she's Donna Reed. Oh, here's a weird Halloween costume that looks like her comic book costume, but I have no idea on plot.
Mindhunter. No, that's a good show. I watched the first season. But Cobra Kai I haven't finished. So I'm still on season 2.
Okay.
Sorry, sir.
Y'all just need to watch it. It's just it's so funny because I was sitting there, Shannon and I are powering through it, and Ashley, who's my stepdaughter, comes in. She's 20, and she's like, "Oh, is this Cobra Kai?" We're like, "Yeah, it's badass." And she's like, "Oh, I heard it sucks."
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah,
Told her it sucks.
because she's 20. They didn't grow up with the Karate Kid. There's no.
No, they did. It was called Jaden Smith.
Yeah, it's totally different. It was way worse. So it's just like, oh, okay. So you and your friends think it suck. Now I know I'm officially like in my mid to late 30s.
Yeah,
Like,
but see, the kids right below them all love the Karate Kid because they had us as their parents
exactly.
who like love these movies and are now showing them. Like my kid's super into the Back to the Future. Loves
That's
it.
fantastic. That's like one of my favorite trilogies of all time.
We
Love
haven't
it.
shown
Nurkic broke his
Karate Kid.
ankle.
Coming.
Just a quick news flash.
What happened?
Oh, I'm watching it right now.
Nurkic broke his ankle.
Oh, geez, for Portland.
Yeah.
He wasn't having a good year to start, man. And dude,
Well, he's just coming back from that leg injury.
yeah, well, yeah,
That sucks.
he had a decent bubble. Damn. Oh,
That
well,
sucks.
I heard it
I
here
took
live.
him I took him like 35th in our draft.
Oh yeah, I'm playing you this week. I don't think I set my lineup today.
Both of us pretty much have like all teams out without like all the COVID games.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
I'm not playing.
So you have a lot of Celtics, a lot of Suns, a lot of Wizards.
Yeah. Oh,
I
well.
have
We're not
no
playing for
Wizards.
money. Who cares? Real quick, I thought I'd touch on this. What do you guys think of the James Harden leaving the West, going to Brooklyn because Kyrie doesn't want to play? Who wants to feel that one? In fact, I'm going to give a shout out because somebody did hit us up on Twitter I'll just call it ForceMaster776 on Twitter's @AndGoat445. He said, what do you think about Nash having to coach KD, Kyrie, and Harden?
Dude, poor Nash.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic.
Like you have the three most temperamental players in the NBA now on your team.
Yeah,
I didn't understand the move. I mean, the Nets were obviously they've lost some games, but they're blowing teams out left and right. I think at some point maybe they still do have the highest scoring differential in the NBA. But I feel like there has to be something else going on with Kyrie that they suspect he might not be coming back anytime soon, because otherwise the move doesn't really seem to make that much sense. And I think the Rockets did a hell of a job getting a haul. I mean, you had James Harden go out basically in public and say, everybody on this team but me sucks. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a choice but to trade him at that point, and they still got 4 first-round picks, 4 pick swaps, Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen. Obviously, those guys, there were guys moving after that. But my God.
Well, they ended up with Depot. I mean, now you have John Wall and Victor Oladipo as a backcourt.
I'd rather have LeVert, but they don't want to have to pay LeVert.
Oladipo's expiring.
So, yeah.
No, well, the Pacers is funny. What did they lose like 3 games in a row? And then I think it started with the Suns. We beat them. And then they went from like the best team in the East to like the least. But LeVert, dude, that addition to that team, it's brilliant. I love LeVert. I'm happy for him to get out of there because the whole time KD and Kyrie have been there this season, and even when they were signed, it's like, what are they going to do with LeVert? And LeVert's a badass, dude. He's a very, very solid player.
Like if you missed one shot, we could.
I know. Right?
Of not attacking the rim.
We could have been in the playoffs if it wasn't for Karis LeVert. Fuck him. Good for you. You're in Indiana. I've been to Indiana. No thanks.
And what's such Brooklyn? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
For real though, I mean, Steve Nash has a reputation of being one of the ultimate team guys in the NBA, and now he's coaching 3 of the most. Well, actually, KD's actually a pretty good team guy, but because he's fucking KD, you know, some of the most like me first guys in the NBA.
I mean, those press conferences are just going to be horrible afterwards because you have Kyrie who doesn't want to talk to the press, KD who thinks we're all blog boys, James Harden who'd rather eat a bucket of chicken and go to a strip club than talk and tell everybody that he's done here, and you got just like Steve Nash just being like, well, I hope everything's going to be okay, you know, like hey,
I don't know why Kyrie hasn't shown up.
Yeah, he's like it's a personal thing, but you know we'll let it go. I mean, so here's what the whole trade was: the Nets just got James Harden, the Rockets got Oladipo, Exum, Kurakis, I don't know who that is, 3 Brooklyn first rounders, 1 Milwaukee first, and 4 Brooklyn first round swaps. Damn.
All of it unprotected.
Yeah, I mean, so think about that. The Rockets, the Pelicans, or I'm sorry, the Rockets, is it the Pelicans? Yeah, the Pelicans and
Sorry,
Oklahoma City,
Vincent.
they all like own the draft for the next like 10 years. Then the Cavs
Yeah.
got Jared Allen and Taurean Prince, and the Pacers got Karis LeVert in a second rounder, which I think is when getting rid of Oladipo, getting Karis LeVert, that's acceptable, I feel. The Cavs, how did the Cavs get in there?
They're going to be fun. I mean, Sexland and Jared Allen.
That's right.
I mean, they're probably going to move Drummond at this point. Drummond.
Well, don't they have like
and
5 centers now?
They're not as bad as Detroit, but I mean they've got Drummond, they've got Love, they've got Jared Allen. I don't even know who else is on that team, but I mean just Sexland and Jared Allen's a fun team to start around. I mean they're not like superstars, but they are frisky and fun.
JaVale McGee, they have him as well.
Oh shit, yeah.
Sean Maker. They got a lot of big guys. Yeah, but yeah, the Sexland, that's the best backcourt duo name. You know, Sexton and Darius Garland. That's the best backcourt nickname. But that they're going to be an interesting team if they trade off one of those centers. And I know that once this happened today, everybody in Suns Nation was starting to talk about, well, hey, we could, JaVale McGee, come save Phoenix. I think I saw that on Twitter, and I'm like, I need to stop following some people. Yes,
what?
Yes.
Was that on Facebook?
It might have been a Facebook comment. Now that I think about it,
it sounds about a Facebook kind of.
Every now and then, Justin will go into one of those Facebook ones and just like lay the smack down on just like what he says is what's called common sense to some of the bullshit that people put on Facebook. And he's like, listen, is this like really a thing right now? Like, come on, use your head.
McGee, come here and get dunked on by everybody, please. We need more of that. We just got rid of Josh Jackson, so.
Sorry, Matthew, go.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna say that I love what Brooklyn's. This is weird, I know, but I think Steve Nash is a perfect coach for this. I think he's handling the Kyrie thing fine. The Harden pickup, though, I think is just kind of a panic because I don't know if Kyrie's gonna be playing the rest of the year. Who knows? He's probably on his off. He'll probably end up like going to some safari or something, doing something different. Whatever he wants to do is fine. But they needed Harden as a reinsurance for KD to stay there this season because KD is probably one of the main superstars in the NBA that might want to leave at the end of the year or else before the year's over. I can see him maybe even want to do that too. So they needed to get Harden, even though they gave up everything. They did this 5 years ago too, where they gave up all their picks, all for KG, all that baloney, and then it just went to hell. So they had to do something. I think Harden and KD really want to win. I think Harden still wants that. And I think they have a better opportunity now with Harden to go to the championship instead of just Kyrie and
they're not going to stop anybody from scoring, so they better shoot the lights out.
Yep, that's what you do in the NBA.
I mean, they're starting center. Their center's Deandre Ayton. Not Deandre Ayton.
DeAndre Jordan. Yeah.
Well, not if KD play the 5 though. I think
maybe at times if they go small ball. I doubt it though. That's not where he's effective. He's effective on the perimeter. But again, it's nice to see another star go east, and that means potentially the Rockets could, as I think you guys were talking about, and one of your preseason podcasts, you were talking about how the Rockets are one of those teams on the downswing, and it's definitely kind of coming to fruition. But still, it's early. We really don't know who's doing what, and where it's all going to pan out. Hopefully, we have a game again on Monday, Martin Luther King Day. It's a 3:00 TNT game, so I'm really hoping that happens because it's not only that; it's also Matthew's birthday.
I thought that one was postponed too.
Already. It's the next 3. Our homestand's postponed. That one's on the road at Memphis.
Yeah, and for everything I've heard as of right now, none of the Suns have actually tested positive. It's just still holding out because of that contact tracing window, which is great. And hey, at that rate, maybe we'll have Sticks back.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Give that guy 5 quality minutes. But
5 quality minutes.
Really quick, because I know this is long, but I know this is your job, John, but I'm going to do it. Iverson Blogs in the chat said Devin Booker best shooting guard in the West now.
Ooh.
I would say yes. I would say. I mean, I would have said yes before, but I'll definitely say yes.
It's not really a deep position as it is. When Klay Thompson's injured, yes, he is. I think now.
I think so too, and just because Harden is more of a point guy to me. He's a combo guard. Who knows what is anything anymore? But yes, if you are going to go by the strict definition of shooting guard, he's got to be. Now he just needs to prove it because he hasn't played to that level so far this year. But All right. Well, I think it's time to wrap up the pod. I'd like to thank the Fanning the Flames guys for joining us on our State of the Suns. We look forward to doing this again, like after a game or something. You know, maybe instead of walking the dog after the game, Justin, you can come on, and Paul, you can come on too, and we could get together and kind of analyze what we saw. I'll tell you this: the hardest part about going live right after a game is you're still so full of emotions. And it's really hard not to come on here and just start ripping apart the Suns team, because that's what everybody else is doing, and you kind of get caught up in it. But you know what?
Well, let's make sure it's a win.
Yes, absolutely. If they lose, I'll be like, listen, I got my losing crowd on. I'll hit up Dave after a loss. He'll keep me grounded. But Dave, you've been a Suns fan for so long, and you know what losing's like. Tell me how to deal with it. But then I realized I've been a Suns fan for so long, and I don't know how to deal with it still after all these years. So, again, thank you to everybody who joined us in the chat and watched this live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the thumbs up button on this episode, and you can hit the little bell. That'll let you know when we go live, whenever we go live. Thank you again to Justin and to Paul for joining us. Can you let them know where to follow you and where to hear you and all that good shit?
I'm at So Says Jay, Paul.
I'm at Dervish of Whirl.
And the pod is at Fan the Flames NBA.
Fantastic. And you can follow the Suns Jam Session podcast at Suns Jam on both Instagram, Twitter, and we have TikTok now.
I know. So, I follow you.
Yes, you were my first follower. Our first follower. Because Matthew actually does all the social media.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for Fanning the Flames on Fans Only. Okay.
I'll pay money for that.
Whatever it is.
Only fans.
Fans only fans, whatever the heck it is. You can follow Matthew on Twitter. And you can follow me on Twitter at Darth Voida. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a fantastic evening. And hopefully we will be getting together on Monday afternoon following a Suns win over Memphis to not only celebrate that win, but also to wish Matthew a happy birthday.
Oh, turn the big 1-8. I'm legal now.
Wow, you can finally buy cigarettes now. Good for you, Matthew. Take care, everybody.
All right, everyone go home. Love your family.